International Christian International High School, and we urge you all to subscribe to His Gov TV. Thank you.
Hi there, you are welcome to His Gov TV. Before we begin with our discussions for today, I want to urge you to subscribe to our channel, support us to grow, and grow with us as well. Today I want us to look at a very important topic, a very important subject matter, and that is the founding of Liberia. The founding of Liberia. And Liberia is a small country which is located in West Africa. And so today we are going to look at the history of Liberia, or this country. It's not an ordinary country in the sense that it has a history linked to slavery, and that explains why I want us to look at the history of this wonderful state of Liberia. And so, basically that is what we'll be doing today, or we will be discussing in this lesson. We will look at the formation of the American Colonization Society, a society which was formed by U.S. citizens to ensure that certain things were done. So we will look at the reasons for the formation, who led the formation, and all of that. And so I would urge you to be with me, and let's have this fruitful discussion. Good. So let's go in there and look at our lesson objectives for today. So as I've already indicated, we are going to look at the events that led to the founding of the state of Liberia today. The state of Liberia today. And this is the flag of Liberia. And it's more or less look like that of the United States flag. However, the Liberian flag only has one star as compared to for that of the U.S. Flag. And we will get to know at the end of this lesson why it is so. Why is the Liberian flag so much look alike to that of the United States flag? So let's go in there and look at the introduction. So earlier on at the beginning, I said that the Liberian state is linked to the abolition of slavery in the USA, and that explains the reason why I want us to look at the history behind the Liberian state or country. All right. Now, we are all aware that in 1863, Abraham Lincoln, who was then the president of the United States, issued a very famous proclamation, which is termed as the Emancipation Proclamation. And Abraham Lincoln is credited to have ended slavery in the USA. And so, in this Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln declared that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then henceforward and forever free. Okay, and so this Emancipation Proclamation brought about freedom to most slaves, most enslaved African American, in the U.S. as at that time. But there was a problem in the sense that Emancipation Proclamation could not grant freedom to all the slaves in all the United States, all the states in the U.S. And therefore, there was an amendment which made it possible for the Emancipation Proclamation to actually affect all the states in the U.S. And so 2 years later, in 1865, the 13th Amendment was adopted, and it was part of the United States Constitution. And then this amendment officially ended or abolished slavery in the U.S., in all the states in the U.S. And immediately this amendment was made, about 100,000 enslaved people from Kentucky and Delaware were all, free. And so that is basically the abolition of slavery in the USA. It was Abraham Lincoln who issued a proclamation that slavery was abolished. And so that is that. Now, after the abolition of slavery, there came a problem in the US. So you can imagine a slave who had been with his or her master all her life or his life is now asked to be free, is now asked to go and fend for himself. Don't forget that some of these slaves were not taking, they did not have any education. Some of them actually did not go to school. Some of them had just worked for their master all this while. So asking these people to go free and fend for themselves without any skill, no education, it was going to be very tough for these freed men or freed African Americans. So what then happened was that, again, even this being challenged, putting aside this challenge, they also faced a problem of acceptance. Okay, these freedmen faced the problem of acceptance. Racism was all over, discrimination was all over, because of the perception that these Europeans have had about Africans all this while, that Africans had no soul, we had no soul, that Africans were backward people, that Africans, and all these things, fed into racism. And so they came to a point where they were not accepted. These freedmen were not accepted in the society. Everywhere they go, they were being discriminated against. Even there were schools that they were not supposed to go. There were areas that they were not supposed to go in the U.S. And so it became very, very hard for these freedmen to actually achieve freedom and equality in the United States. Yes, they were free, but society was finding it very difficult to accept that these freedmen are part of the U.S. And so that came with it a whole lot, together with unemployment and all of that. So the freedmen faced a lot of challenges in the U.S. And so something had to be done about the whole situation in order to curb that, because if not, it was going to lead to something else. Okay? And so that is what happened. Let's take a look at the formation of the American Colonization Society. So when something had to be done about the situation or the plight of these freed Negroes, then there was this man known as Robert Finley, and that is the image you find over here. So Robert Finley then suggested that, fine, then why don't we send these Negroes back to Africa, where to him they could achieve equality and freedom, true equality and freedom, instead of being in the United States and being abused and being discriminated against. So that is what Finley suggested. Okay, and he thought that over there they could find true equality and freedom. But there also arose a question as to which part of Africa are we going to take these people to? Because don't forget that these free slaves we are talking about here are descendants of slaves. They were not brought directly from from West Africa or from Africa. They are descendants. They were born in the U.S. And therefore, which African country are you going to send these slaves to? Okay, and so that also became a problem for Robert Finlay. But then what happened was that Finlay then decided to champion the idea of returning these Negroes back to Africa. And so what happened was that Finlay and a group of small men, they met in Washington in 1816, and then they founded a society which was responsible for the sending of free Negroes back to Africa, right? And that society was the American Society for colonizing the free people of color in the United States. So Finlay, or Robert Finlay, championed this whole idea of American Colonization Society, whereby these free Africans were being taken to Africa as to where they were being taken to. They had not, of course, planned on that. Okay, but I'm also sure that it wasn't compulsory for free Africans to go. I think it was voluntary. So if you want to go as a free African, then you join them to go back to Africa. So they pay your shipping fee and everything. Now, what happened was initially Robert Finlay and the other men who championed this idea sent some of these Negroes, free Negroes, to Sierra Leone, all right? And Sierra Leone, if you look at the map here, look at the map on your right-hand side, you see, so this is Liberia. This area is what we call Liberia, all right? And then this small area here is what we call Sierra Leone. So Liberia and Sierra Leone, see, they are very small, tiny states here, and they share border with each other. Initially, Robert and the men who championed this idea of sending Negroes back to Africa sent these Negroes to Sierra Leone. So the question is, why did they send these Negroes to Sierra Leone? Don't forget that Sierra Leone also had been chosen by the British after they abolished slavery in Britain to settle all freed slaves who were also facing the same challenges as those in the U.S. were facing, because in Britain too the same situation arose, whereby slaves or freed slaves were being discriminated against. True equality and freedom was not possible for these slaves, all right? And so Sierra Leone had already been established by the British, and we will look at the history also behind the establishment of Sierra Leone, probably in our next video. So at this time, Sierra Leone had already been established by Britain to resettle freed Negroes. Okay, and so ideally, Britain and the U.S. have always had a cordial relations, and so ideally, since Robert and his people have not been able to find, a country in Africa, ideally they will take these free men to Sierra Leone. But that was not successful due to certain things. That was not successful. So what then happened was that Robert Finlay and the other men then decided to purchase a land from a local chief at Cape Mesurado, all right? In 1831, they decided to purchase a land from this local chief. And then they resettled 130 Negroes, free Negroes, to this land. Okay? Yes. And that was the genesis of the Liberian story. Okay? So these 130 men who were sent to this tiny land named that area, that colony, as what? Liberia. And Liberia came from a Latin word for a free man. That's liber, all right? So liber for a free man. So liber is a Latin word for free man, and then it came to be known as Liberia. Liberia. So Liberia is simply land of free men. Okay, and this image you see here was the image of Liberia somewhere in the 1920s. Okay, and this is the current area, or this is the current picture of Liberia. We'll get to know the particular city, but let's move on here. So then the colonists then decided to call their first settlement, that area, that town, as what? Monrovia. All right, and this Monrovia was named after James Monroe, who was then the president of the United States as at that period. And so Monrovia was named after James Monroe of the United States. So the early settlers faced many challenges. Don't forget, as I said earlier, most of them were not born in Liberia, and therefore, they faced many challenges such as climatic conditions, because the conditions in West Africa, the climate conditions in West Africa is quite different from that of the US. And so some of them will die as a result of illness and other stuff. But some also hung on and stayed there, because going to a land of abuse where people would abuse you, would discriminate against you, it's better for you to leave that area to protect your dignity than to go and stay in the US and be treated like a non-human being. And so some of them chose to settle there, and their little town or settlement grew and became a city. Okay, so this is the current city of Monrovia. And interestingly, this first colony later became the capital, or the capital town of the Republic of Liberia. So this picture you see right here is the capital of the Republic of Liberia, and that was the first settler colony that was formed or founded by Robert Finlay and the other freed slaves that were sent from the US. Good. I hope you have learned something about Liberia today. And if you are asked anything about Liberia, you will be able to do that for us. So subscribe to our channel if you like this video. Help us to grow, share, and comment. If you have any topic you want to.
It's Gov TV, first among equals. Bye.